Did you know how harmful excessive salt can be for our bones? This may come as a surprise to many of us, because salt, or sodium chloride, is such a common ingredient in our diets. It's in almost everything we eat, from the breakfast cereal we start our day with to the savory snacks we munch on in the evenings. But while a certain amount of salt is necessary for our bodies to function properly, consuming more than the recommended quantity can pose serious health risks. Now, you might already be aware of the link between high salt intake and conditions like hypertension or heart disease, but did you know that excessive salt consumption can also affect your bones? Yes, that's right. Our skeletal system, which provides structure to our bodies and protects our vital organs, can also be compromised by the overconsumption of this everyday ingredient. Many of us don't realize that we're consuming more salt than we need. The recommended daily intake of salt for an average adult is around 1 teaspoon, which equals about 5 grams. But in reality, many of us are taking in much more than this. Processed foods, fast foods, and even some seemingly healthy options can be laden with hidden salts, making it easy to exceed the recommended daily limit. Excessive salt intake can lead to a number of health issues, including high blood pressure and heart disease, but its impact on our bones is less well known. When we consume too much salt, our bodies try to eliminate the excess sodium through our urine. But this process can also lead to the loss of calcium, a mineral that's vital for bone health. Over time, this can weaken our bones and make them more susceptible to conditions like osteoporosis and fractures. So, while we might enjoy the taste of a salty snack or a well-seasoned meal, it's important to remember that our bodies require balance. Consuming more salt than we need can have serious implications for our health, including the health of our bones. Stay tuned to find out how this everyday ingredient could be silently affecting your bone health. To understand how salt affects our bones, we first need to understand how salt affects our body. Salt, or as scientists love to call it, sodium chloride, is more than just a flavor enhancer. It plays an essential role in our bodies, aiding in nerve and muscle function and maintaining the balance of fluids. But like most things in life, it's all about balance. So what happens when we tip the scales and consume too much salt? The kidneys come into play here. These bean-shaped organs are the unsung heroes of our body, tirelessly working to filter out excess sodium through our urine. But when we overload our system with salt, it's like expecting a small town's police force to handle the crowd of a major music festival. The kidneys struggle to keep up, and excess sodium begins to accumulate in our blood. Now you might be thinking, so what? It's just a little extra sodium. But here's the catch. Sodium attracts water. And when there's excess sodium in your blood, it pulls water into your blood vessels, increasing the total amount, the volume of blood inside them. With more blood flowing through, blood pressure rises. But the story doesn't end there. High blood pressure isn't just about taking a few extra deep breaths. It puts a strain on your heart, arteries, and kidneys, which can lead to heart disease and stroke. And let's not forget about our bones. When our kidneys are overwhelmed with excess sodium, they aren't as effective at filtering out other things like calcium. So more calcium is lost in urine instead of being used to strengthen our bones. So, too much salt can lead to more than just high blood pressure. It can also lead to a cascade of issues, including bone loss. But how exactly does salt affect our bones? Let's dive into the science. When we think of bones, we often think about calcium. This mineral is a crucial building block for our skeleton, keeping our bones strong and healthy. But did you know that our salt intake can have a profound effect on how our bodies manage this essential mineral? Here's where the connection between salt and calcium comes into play. When we consume salt, it's broken down into its two components, sodium and chloride. Sodium is what we need to focus on here. In the kidneys, sodium and calcium share the same route for reabsorption. So when there's an excess of sodium, say from eating too much salt, our kidneys can get a little overwhelmed. They work overtime to flush out the excess sodium, and in the process, calcium can get swept along for the ride. This is called calcium excretion. Essentially, the more salt you eat, the more calcium you might excrete in your urine instead of absorbing it back into your body. Now, you might be thinking, so what? I'll just drink more milk or eat more cheese to compensate. Well, it's not quite that simple. The body can only absorb a limited amount of calcium at a time. So even if you increase your calcium intake, if you're also consuming a lot of salt, you may still end up losing more calcium than your body can replace. Over time, this can lead to a calcium deficit, and since our bodies need calcium for more than just bones, like nerve function and blood clotting, they'll start to pull calcium from the bones to compensate. This can weaken the bones, making them more prone to fractures and osteoporosis. So, while salt might make our food taste better, it's important to remember that too much of it can have serious consequences for our bone health. In essence, the more salt you consume, the more calcium your body may lose, which can lead to weakened bones. Excessive salt doesn't just weaken bones, it can also exacerbate existing bone conditions. This is a truth that many of us may not be aware of. You see, salt has a sneaky way of disrupting our body's natural balance. When we consume too much salt, it increases the amount of calcium our bodies excrete, resulting in a calcium deficit. And where does our body turn to make up for this shortfall? You guessed it, our bones. This can lead to weakened bones, making us more susceptible to fractures and conditions like osteoporosis. Imagine your bones as a bank. The more salt you consume, the more calcium withdrawals you make. Over time, these withdrawals can leave your bone bank depleted and weak. It's like spending your life savings on a shopping spree without thinking about the long-term consequences. Now, let's talk about osteoporosis. This is a disease that causes bones to become weak and brittle, so brittle that even a minor fall or slight pressure can cause a fracture. And here's the kicker: excessive salt consumption can exacerbate this condition. How, you ask? Well, remember the calcium withdrawals we discussed earlier? They can accelerate the progression of osteoporosis by further weakening already fragile bones. It's a vicious cycle, and one that can lead to debilitating fractures and a diminished quality of life. But here's the good news. By reducing your salt intake, you can help manage these conditions. Fewer calcium withdrawals mean stronger bones, and stronger bones mean a reduced risk of fractures and osteoporosis. Think of it as making deposits into your bone bank. Every time you say no to that extra dash of salt, you're making a deposit, building up your reserves and strengthening your bones for the future. So, by controlling your salt intake, you're not just maintaining your bone health, you're also potentially preventing serious bone diseases. It's a simple change, but one that can have a profound impact on your health and well-being. And remember, it's never too late to start making healthier choices. Now that we know how harmful excessive salt can be, what can we do about it? The answer lies in cultivating healthy salt habits. It's not about eliminating salt entirely from your diet, but about being mindful of how much you're consuming and where it's coming from. One of the most effective ways to reduce salt intake is by cooking at home more often. When you prepare your meals, you have full control over the ingredients and their quantities. This means you can decide how much salt goes into your food. Start by gradually reducing the amount of salt you add to your meals. You'll be surprised at how quickly your taste buds adjust. Reading food labels is another practical way to keep a check on your salt intake. Packaged and processed foods are often high in sodium, even those that don't taste particularly salty. Look for labels that say low salt, reduced salt, or no added salt. But remember, it's not just about looking for these labels, it's about understanding them. Now, let's talk flavor. Using herbs and spices instead of salt to season your food is a healthy and delicious alternative. Experiment with different combinations of herbs and spices. You may discover new flavors that you enjoy more than the taste of excessive salt. In addition to these dietary changes, regular exercise plays a crucial role in maintaining overall bone health. Weight-bearing exercises like walking, jogging, or lifting weights can help strengthen your bones and reduce the risk of osteoporosis. It's important to note, however, that change won't happen overnight. It takes time to form new habits and break old ones, but with patience and perseverance, you can make the shift towards healthier salt habits. Remember, maintaining your bone health is a lifelong commitment, and every little bit counts, including reducing your salt intake. So, let's make that commitment today and work towards a healthier, happier you.